Let's talk for a few minutes now about developing internal control. And I want to first talk about the unwillingness to create rules. I haven't yet encountered a person interested in trading who didn't resist the notion of creating a set of rules. The resistance, it's not always overt, quite the contrary, it's usually very subtle. We agree on the one hand that rules make sense, but we really have no intention of doing whatever is being suggested. This resistance can be intense and it has a logical source. The reason we're attracted to trading in the first place is the same reason we feel a natural resistance to creating the kinds of rules and boundaries that can appropriately guide our behavior. It's as if we have a utopia in which there is complete freedom, and then somebody taps us on the shoulder and says, hey, you have to create rules. And not only that, you also have to have the discipline to abide by them. The hard reality of trading is that if you want to create consistency, you have to start from the premise that no matter what the outcome, you are completely responsible. This is a level of responsibility few people have aspired to before they decide to become traders. The way to avoid responsibility is to adopt a trading style that is, to all intents and purposes, random. I define random thinking as poorly planned trades or trades that are not planned at all. It's an unorganized approach that takes into consideration an unlimited set of market variables which do not allow you to find out what works on a consistent basis and what does not. If the market's behavior were truly random, then it would be difficult, if not impossible, to create consistency. If it's impossible to be consistent, then we really don't have to take responsibility. The problem with this logic is that our direct experience of the market tells us something different. The same behavior patterns present themselves over and over again. Even though the outcome of each individual pattern is random, the outcome of a series of patterns is consistent, or it's statistically reliable. This is a paradox, but one that's easily resolved with a disciplined, organized, and consistent approach. I'm not sure why we're susceptible to becoming addicted to random rewards. If I had to guess, I'd say that it probably has something to do with the euphoria-inducing chemicals that are released in our brains when we experience an unexpected pleasant surprise. If a reward is random, we never know for sure if and when we might receive it. So expending energy and resources in the hope of experiencing that wonderful feeling of surprise again isn't difficult. In fact, for a lot of people, it can be very addicting. On the other hand, when we expect a particular outcome and it doesn't come about, we're disappointed and feel bad. If we do it again and get the same disappointing outcome, it isn't likely that we'll keep doing something we know will cause us emotional pain. The problem with any addiction is that it leaves us in a state of having no choice. To whatever degree the addiction dominates our state of mind, to that same degree our focus and efforts are geared toward fulfilling the object of that addiction. Other possibilities that exist in any given moment to fulfill our needs, like the need to trust ourselves and not to subject too many of our assets to risk, are either ignored or dismissed. We feel powerless to act in any other way than to satisfy the addiction. An addiction to random rewards is particularly troublesome for traders because it's another source of resistance to creating the kind of mental structure that produces consistency. The markets may seem like a social endeavor because there are so many people involved, but they're not. If in your culture you have learned to depend on others to fulfill basic needs, then you've got to realize that the market environment can be characterized as a psychological wilderness, where it's truly every man or woman for himself or herself. Not only can we not depend on the market to do anything for us, but it's extremely difficult, if not impossible, to manipulate or control anything that the market does. Now, if we've become effective at fulfilling our needs, wants, and desires by learning how to control and manipulate our environment, but suddenly find ourselves as traders in an environment that does not know, care, or respond to anything that's important to us, where does that leave us? You're right if you set up the proverbial creek without a paddle. One of the principal reasons so many successful people have failed miserably at trading is that their success is partly attributable to their superior ability to manipulate and control the social environment to respond to what they want. To some degree, all of us have learned or developed techniques to make the external environment conform to our mental interior environment. The problem is that none of these techniques work with the market. The market does not respond to control and manipulation unless you're a very large trader. I don't expect that you are, you might be, but you have to dispose of an attitude, if you have it, that somehow, in whatever way, to whatever degree, that you can in some way control the market.